I'm thrilled to welcome you to the May Knowledge Talk. We're going to be talking specifically about tips and partnering with a recruiter. I started my career at Kforce 16 years ago as a recruiter and then grew into a leadership role for the firm. But I truly love helping people find the right career opportunity. I'm so excited to dig into today's topic and share some advice with you. So over the next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about how we can help you find the right recruiter, give you advice on doing that, different ways recruiters can save you time, and just unique company insights that recruiters can provide. So today's Knowledge Talk is the first series of 3 different knowledge talks, and we're going to talk about the ins and outs of kind of the staffing solutions in that specific world. So in the next month, we're going to tackle how a bad hire can cost your company more than just lost wages. So that will be happening, I believe it's June 9th. But first, let's look at how partnering with a recruiter can maximize your job search. So joining me today, we have Angela Colmorgan and we have Sam Jackson. So Angela is the Talent Director for Finance and Accounting here at Kforce. She's been a part of the firm for more than 7 years. With recruiting experience in a wide variety of industries. She's passionate about supporting our candidates and their job search and loves partnering with recent college graduates, as well as seasoned professionals that are looking to kind of change their career. Angela is a mom of 2 boys, and she has 2 wild rescue pups. We might potentially see them on today's meeting. We'll apologize in advance if that happens, but we can't control, all we can control here. But thank you for joining us, Angela. I'm excited to work with you. So, and then we have Sam, and I'm checking to see if we've lost Sam for a second because I don't see him on at this moment. So,
I'm here.
Thanks, perfect, Sam. Thank you. I didn't see you for a second. It got me worried. So, Sam is a good. Thank you. Sam is a consultant with a strong customer service background. He spent the past 2 years working for Kforce clients in the financial services industry. And Sam has his bachelor's degree in science of communication from the University of Missouri St. Louis. So Sam, we're so excited for you to talk on the consultant perspective of working with a recruiter and offering some advice for those that want to potentially partner and how it can help. So thank you so much. All right. So yeah, thank you. A few things I want to go into before we get started on the content. We will have a Q&A question session at the very end. So throughout this topic, if you have questions, you can type them in. In the Q&A panel, you can type your questions in, and then we will funnel through those towards the end of the presentation. We'll get to as many as possible. And those of you that are listening to this on the LinkedIn cast as well, you certainly can type them in LinkedIn, and we will get back to you after the session with answers if you have questions that we need help with. So we're excited to talk through this topic today. And another piece that we're also going to be looking after this topic is completed, you guys will be receiving a short survey about the session, and we really would appreciate your feedback. So if you could take a moment and complete that for us, that would be great. You're also going to receive an email with today's recording of this knowledge talk. So that is it. So let's get started. I think where I want to start with our first questions is just trying to get to know the panelists and what your first experience with a recruiter was. So Sam, I will start with you. How did you get introduced to a recruiter?
Well, after I graduated from UMSL in 2015, I kind of did the job search on my own for a little while, and then in 2017, I found Kforce on Indeed, and I would think within about 3 weeks of first contacting them, got placed at my previous assignment, and then that was going on 3 or almost 4 years ago. And an all-around good experience, and I mean, I really can't say enough about just the work they do in terms of narrowing down your search and really helping you find a company that's going to be a good fit for you, and you be a good fit at the company.
We appreciate that, Sam, so thank you. Angela, how did you get connected with Kforce or get connected with a recruiter to start your career?
Definitely. So I, similarly to Sam, graduated at the pit of the recession many years ago now, and was looking like everyone else there, where there were more candidates than there were opportunities back in 2007. And so I applied to a role and didn't realize, I think initially, that it was with a recruiting firm for one of their clients. So went through their process, had a really great experience. That particular role wasn't a home run, but it introduced me to kind of the world of recruiting and firms that partner with organizations to help find talent. And so I was a communications major in school, which really meant I knew I wanted to work with people, partner with people, but wasn't really sure what that direct path looked like. And after having that experience with the recruiter, which was very positive, I started to look at opportunities really in the market that would align me to both supporting people and having that connection to clients, and really tripped, stumbled, and fell into the recruiting world almost 15 years ago. So as my husband would say, he's like, whenever anyone asks him what I do for a living, he's like, Angela's a glorified matchmaker. And it's true. I get to work every day in partnership with people who are looking for work, but also supporting our clients and making sure that there's a good match between both parties.
Right, I would agree. And there's nothing rewarding than helping someone find the right opportunity. So how I
Definitely.
first got connected with recruiting is I actually applied to a position. It was a different staffing firm other than Kforce, but I applied to a position on Monster, and they selected me for an interview. And I thought, I know nothing about this industry, but let's go. It'll be a good interviewing experience, and we'll see where this takes me. And I was delightfully surprised about the opportunity and to learn about recruiting and learn about how we could help individuals. And I was instantly intrigued in wanting the job. And so I was lucky enough to receive that. And that's how I kind of got into this business, and I'm very grateful that I found it. So that's a little bit about us and our panelists and how we've kind of gotten started and connected. Next, we're going to kind of go through a rapid fire round and clear up kind of some commonly asked questions about working with a recruiter with a little bit of true and false. So, all right, the first one is, and Angela, I'm going to give you this one. So working with a recruiter is free, true or false?
True. Absolutely. I think the biggest investment is your time. It's, and that time investment is a half hour, 20 minutes, a half hour. I think going into it through the lens of it's an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about, the recruiting firm or the recruiter that's reaching out to you, but for them to learn a little bit more about you. So ultimately it is free, but the investment there is really just 20 to 30 minutes of your time to kind of kickstart that partnership.
Perfect. I would agree. All right, our next statement. So only certain industries work with recruiters, and I will take this one. So true or false? That is false. There are a lot of different industries that work with recruiters. Kforce focuses on finance and accounting and technology, but there are certainly other industries that have recruiters that partner and help individuals find employment. So a lot of different industries, a lot of options out there. The next one, and Sam, I'm going to give this to you, but new grads can work with recruiters. Is it true or false?
Definitely true.
Good. I know you mentioned too, as you started your career, that you were still somewhat early in your career looking for it and partnering with a firm to find an opportunity. But it is interesting. I think over the past 10 years or so, maybe even a little bit longer, more companies are looking to hire a new graduate, certainly can partner with a recruiter. And I think part of it is just the supply of candidates being a little bit slimmer, right? So I think just looking at how can they get their position filled and find somebody that they could potentially train and just someone that has a good attitude and willing to work hard. So, all right, moving on. Next question is I have to talk to my recruiter every day. What do you think, Angela?
Yeah, I think it's false. When I think about candidates and the connection they want to have with the recruiter, what it comes down to is where you're at in your search, how motivated you are in your search, how aggressive you're looking, for opportunities. Many candidates I partner with, want to connect once a week to kind of get an update and give an update. Others want to connect once a month, some every other week. So really how often you connect with your recruiter is really going to be driven by your own preferences and what you prefer as you're kickstarting your search, whether you're passive or if you're aggressively looking.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. I do think, too, it's important for that candidate to establish the cadence that they want to communicate with the recruiter, because I certainly have heard candidates feel frustrated that they met with a recruiter and they never heard anything ever again. So I think it's important to say, hey, what is going to be the cadence of staying in touch? What do you expect of me as the candidates? Or, just setting that tone. I think that's important. A piece of advice I would offer to somebody. All right, the next question would be are all those LinkedIn messages I get, are they spam? And I am going to say no on that, so it's false. LinkedIn is a very viable source for recruiters to reach out to individuals to see if they're, one, potentially looking or know someone that's looking. I know there's a lot of individuals that are using that platform to connect with individuals. So I would encourage you to look at those, or consider connecting and building a network, because you may not be looking for a position at this point or looking to change your career, but sometimes it's good just to have that relationship built, so if something changes in the future and you need help, that you have a list of individuals that potentially could help you. So look at the LinkedIn messages. Feel free to respond back as you see appropriate would be my best advice for you. All right, so the next piece we're going to go into, and now we kind of know some of the basics of working with a recruiter. Obviously, it's free to anyone, and anyone can do it. But what does that process really look like, and where do you start? So, Angela, what sort of online presence do job seekers need in order to catch your eye?
Yeah, so from a platform standpoint, I would definitely encourage anyone seeking opportunities to make sure that your resume is on the job board. So making sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date, also making sure that your resume is posted on Indeed and some of the other platforms that are out there. Indeed and LinkedIn also have ways for you to kind of showcase your resume that you are open to work, so that you're not necessarily a passive job seeker, but rather an active or someone who is aggressively looking to hear about opportunities. As a recruiter, I can sort my searches by those tabs. And so I would definitely encourage you, if you're unemployed looking for work, or you're in a position now where you're looking to make a move sooner rather than later, to make sure you've selected that open to work or actively looking tabs on either of those platforms. I think the other piece to that, in addition to making sure you have a profile built out on those platforms, is to make sure that your resume is up to date, showcasing your experience. A piece of advice I give a lot of candidates that I'm partnering with, even from our initial conversation, is making sure that their resume quantifies the work that they've been doing and really is showing the value that they're bringing to their current organization. So spending a little extra time to make sure that your resume is really there to kind of showcase the experience that you've been polishing, whether it's you're a recent graduate and you want to showcase the courses you've been taking and the tools and the technologies that you've been able to develop through the classroom, as well as those who have 10, 15 years of work experience, really quantifying the experience you've been molding, over that time. So really making sure that your experience is highlighted. That's part of where I think a recruiter can kind of come into play. They can take a look at your resume, make sure that pieces there are highlighted that are going to be relevant to the types of opportunities that you're looking for. That way you're putting your best foot forward as your resume is posted out there. The other thing, I would highlight there is that you're providing some candor, whether it's an objective statement or something on the top that showcases, your ideal target. Certainly that can be a part of the conversation with the recruiter, but I think even outside of, my partnership with a candidate as they're applying to roles on their own, I do think having that objective statement or a highlight of your kind of core expertise, whether that's what you're looking for if you're a new graduate or someone who has 10 years of experience, making sure that that's a big piece of your resume towards the top. To highlight that work experience to kind of get that conversation started.
Good. I would agree. Thank you, Angela.
Yeah,
My
definitely.
piece of advice on this one to get the process of working with a recruiter is also make sure that your network, your friends and your family, and know that you're looking for work, because there's a lot of individuals that might have a partnership with a recruiter already. And if they know that you're looking for work, they potentially could refer you to someone that they maybe have had success with. I certainly have had a lot of customers pass on their children are graduating from college and they're looking for work, so they might pass their information on as a referral, or different even family members know that this is a business that I'm in and that, hey, you should reach out to Alex, she potentially could help you. So I think the more you can have your network helping you looking for opportunities, I think is also very important, because you just never know who can be connected with someone. Or the recruiter reaches out to somebody on LinkedIn, they are not specifically looking, but they know someone that is looking. So but you got to make sure everyone knows that you're looking for opportunities, so your network can help you. Sam, I know you've worked with a recruiter a couple of times now. What was your timeline like?
So the first time that I reached out, I want to say I reached out on a Monday, and then by that Wednesday,
So I think I lost Sam's audio. I can't hear Sam. So I don't know. Angela, can you hear Sam?
Relatively quick.
Oh, there we go. We connected back in. Hey, Sam, we lost you for a minute. So unfortunately, I don't know. I'm sorry about that. But you are back, so it's okay. No, I get it. Technology is in working in these remote environments can be a challenge. So it's okay. If you don't mind, I'm probably going to have you start over because I didn't hear what you said. So thank you. But yeah, I'm just trying to understand like how you started working with a recruiter and what that timeline looked like.
So I interviewed, or I contacted Kforce. I want to say it was on a Monday, just via email off a job board, and then by 2 days later on that Wednesday, I was at the Kforce office for an interview, kind of them asking me questions about where did I want to go with my career, what type of companies did I see myself working at, and where I think I would fit in the best. So them kind of picking my brain about where I wanted to go. So that was about 2 days later on a Wednesday. I was then interviewing at the company that I would eventually accept an assignment for by the following Wednesday. So the whole process from them interviewing me to interviewing with a company and then accepting it was only about like 10 business days, which is really quick. And for my most recent assignment, it was about the same time frame. And the only thing I want to say from accepting the assignment, it was about 2 weeks out, and they give you all that information about when you're accepting the assignment and how long it's going to be from the time that you accept it to your first day, which was important to me that I wasn't accepting an assignment that was 3 months out, but that was relatively soon.
No, that's good. We appreciate that. It is interesting. There are times that your job search and partner with a recruiter, it can move very quickly. And so sometimes that can also be maybe a bit scary if you haven't been warned about that. Sometimes you're excited because you want to get to work, but sometimes it's also like, wow, that job offer came so quickly. Am I ready to accept? So just a good piece of advice to know that sometimes it can move really quick. And so I think level setting with a recruiter and sometimes a while, so it's not always guaranteed to happen overnight. The next thing we want to talk about is once you've kind of made that initial connection with the recruiter, it's definitely, you want to figure out if it's the right recruiter for you, right? So you certainly have a choice to make sure that you're partnering with the right person. And I think it's fair to ask some thoughtful questions about the positions that they're offering, and you can work with multiple recruiters. It's okay to partner with multiple individuals. My recommendation when partnering with multiple recruiters is because not everybody has relationships with every company. So it's being very aware of if a recruiter is sending a resume that you know where they're sending it to, so you can document that so recruiters, two recruiters aren't sending a resume to the same opportunity. So making sure you understand where you're at. But Sam, I want to understand from you, like, what makes a good fit for you with a recruiter? Any advice? What did you look for when you were partnering with a recruiter?
Probably, honesty, I probably valued above all else. Being honest about helping keep me grounded and say, well, okay, if you're looking for a position in this sector, your day to day is probably going to look like this, and then also just honesty about what your day to day workload is going to be like when you get there. Okay, or are you looking for a place that's got an hour long commute away? Things that I didn't really think about when I was just looking for a position on my own. Um, what does it look like? How long are you going to be there till maybe they hire you on full time? Um, those type of questions, and just generally having a conversation. I felt like I was valued, and I wasn't just going to be put at a company. It was a company that I was probably going to have a future at versus just somewhere that I was going to work for a couple months or a year.
Good. No, I think that is important. I think to be able to understand all of that and make sure you understand what the opportunities lie with you. So it kind of opens up like the next slide and talking more about motivators and understanding, because I think it's important for a candidate to understand what their motivators are and what they need to bring to the table, and having that conversation. So we'll kind of go into that piece of it, because I do think there's important of having having the candidate understand truly what's important to them and what they want in their job search so that the recruiter can find that right opportunity. So Angela, I would love to know, like, help us understand what the motivators are and what the candidate should come to the table with.
Definitely. So I feel like, especially during that initial call, so you schedule with a recruiter, maybe through a conversation through LinkedIn, or you respond that you're interested to a conversation from a message they sent you on Indeed. This is kind of your next step. And I think going into the conversation, willing to share, not only where your core skill set is as it relates to today, but where you're trying to go next. So it's giving some thought on what's important to you. So certainly, the recruiter's goal is also going to be to understand your core, not only skill set, but motivations in terms of making a change. Things we want to know about are, what are the non-negotiable, scenarios that as you're looking for new positions, what has to be there in your next role? Is it certain technologies? Is it a certain type of manager? Is it flexibility of schedule? Are you looking to work remote, or you want something that's a hybrid situation? So, preferences are, I think, more important than candidates may think kind of coming into that conversation. So certainly skills, I want to capture your core skill set, understand your capabilities, but a lot of the conversation is really circled around what it comes down to is your preferences. So understanding salary, understanding commute. I feel like over the course of this pandemic, I've watched culture become a really big driver in a lot of candidates' job search, and making sure that they're working for an organization that values their safety, that values flexibility, especially if they have children at home. So I think making sure that you're really transparent with the recruiter you're partnering with, that they have a really good feel of what's most desirable to you and what are hard requirements and what are things that you're flexible on. We're not mind readers, and I think, I wish I were. I think we'd all be better recruiters if we were, but I think more than anything else, it's really understanding, helping the recruiter, whether it's myself or someone else, understand what's most important to you. So when we're bringing opportunities to the table, we can share, hey, I know during our conversation you shared that flexibility, being able to pick your kid up from the bus at 3 o'clock is something that's really important to you. This leader is really big on schedule flexibility. As long as the work's getting done, it's between the core hours of 8 and 7, they're open. So I think a great recruiter is going to be a great listener, someone who's going to understand what's most important to you, and then bringing opportunities to the table that really marry up to what's going to make the most sense for you to pursue a new position.
I would agree. The other piece of advice is you may have a list of motivators that are you're ranking them as like maybe 1 through 5 of things that are most important to you. But certainly I've seen that also change as time goes on in your job search. So my recommendation would be is if something changes, for an example, let's say your commute expectations change. Maybe you don't want to commute more than 30 minutes and now you've been looking for work for a while and you're going to expand that to an hour. Just make sure you're communicating that to the recruiter that you're partnering with or recruiters that you're partnering with, because certainly there's times that they may be using that as, they might not be calling you about the job because they feel like it's too far of a drive for you based upon what you told them that we were looking for. And then on the flip side of that, I know I certainly would call candidates and say, hey, this opportunity matches up with 4 of your 5 expectations. It's missing this piece, but I want to give you the chance to say yes or no. I don't want to make that decision for you, because sometimes you might reconsider or something might change. But I do think it's important for the recruiter to listen and make sure that, if as a candidate, if you're telling them something you're looking for and they're disregarding all of that, right, then I think it's fair to let them know that, hey, these things are kind of my criteria. But let them know if it changes. Be a piece of advice there. Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk more about just changes we've seen kind of in the marketplace. So Angela, I'd love to get recommendations or your feel for what you've seen kind of change in the past years, what companies are looking for, how they're relying on recruiters. Any advice?
Yeah, I think when it comes to saving time, I think, we just talked a little bit about the front end conversation and how that's such a big piece of a candidate search, and really helping the recruiter maximize their search on your behalf, really. I think feedback is really important, and I think it's important from a recruiter to provide feedback to the candidate about the market, what's moving in the market, and if a candidate potentially has an unrealistic expectation, maybe it's salary or some of the governing factors they're looking for. I think education of the market is really important, but it also is equally important for that candidate who's looking for work to educate the recruiter if an opportunity brought to them isn't a home run. So rather than just saying no, not interested, I think providing more candor around or detail around the why behind it. So why isn't that opportunity of interest? Is it commute? Is it the company they haven't heard great things? Is it, whatever those factors are, because that helps me or other recruiters better partner with you in your search. So I think the more information you can provide, and really more information both sides can provide to make that best match, it really brings value to the candidate to make sure that they're getting the right opportunities presented to them. But ultimately, that transparency, providing really good candor and detail around the why a particular role is less interesting to them, I think brings more value than initial thought could be given to it. So I would definitely recommend, rather than saying no, not interested, sharing the why behind it so they can better help you next time as they're sending other opportunities your way.
Good. And I would agree. I think that over the course I've seen the staffing evolution change, right? So I think more and more companies are using this as a tool to find candidates either through contract positions or project positions or a permanent hire. So some of it too is just the supply of candidates and how low is unemployment, how difficult it is to find candidates. So that's the other piece I would say is just the dynamics of the market have shifted a little bit, which will then have companies partnering more with recruiters to find candidates. The other thing I wanted to add is that it's important if you, as a candidate, are looking for an opportunity or a particular company you're wanting to partner with or list of companies, to communicate that to the recruiter and share, hey, I'm really interested in working at these 3 companies or this industry. Or if the candidate sees an opportunity that's posted online, to partner with a recruiter, ask the recruiter if they have any connections at that company, if they can help get their resume further than just that candidate applying on their own. A good recruiter will tell you, yes, I have relationships there, or no, I don't. My recommendation at this point is for you to apply on your own. I don't think I can get your resume any further than you can just with applying through that job posting. So a couple of pieces of advice there, but I do think it's important because you never know if someone knows somebody there and could help. Or it could be a friendly referral to get your resume into the right person. So Sam, I know I want to ask you too, why did you make the decision to work with a recruiter again? What benefit did you see?
I think working with a recruiter, just being able to piggyback off of the relationships that you guys already have with these companies is just invaluable, pretty much to the point where I don't think I would have. I like to think I probably had a good shot, but nowadays, companies don't want to train someone that may or may not work out. So when you have someone like K-Force kind of vouching for you, in essence, saying, hey, we think he's going to be a good fit for this company and this role at this company. That was really what sold me on the process, and that's why I came back the second time around. Because I had a good experience at my first assignment, so gave it another shot, and seems to be going pretty well from here.
No, we appreciate that. I think that helps just understand, that partnership and how you benefited, right? Because obviously they've helped employ and keep you employed. So I think that that's important. So what I want to do is I want to kind of transition into our last segment. So Angela, what type of information are you able to provide and share with candidates kind of about each opportunity that you're working on?
Yeah, so I think it goes a couple different avenues. First and foremost, I can always talk to the opportunity itself and share the job description. I feel like those are, things you would expect me to provide on the front end. So talking about compensation, high level details about the role. But where I think a recruiter can really bring value is talking about the soft skills. I think knowing, one, the preferences that you have as you're looking at opportunities, but being able to speak to the client and understand what's the culture of their team? What's the dynamic of their group? How large is their team? Really being able to kind of talk through the culture of that organization and make sure it's a good fit from the candidate's perspective as well. I think recruiters, those that have a lot of manager contact, using myself as an example, I've recruited for Kforce for quite some time. And so I've worked with a lot of the same clients. So I know about them, their families, just more about who they are as a person. And I feel like that can be as much of a selling point to a role for a candidate, over potentially just kind of walking through the specifics of the job. So I think, a really great recruiter is one who's going to be able to fill you in past what the high level details of the role itself look like, and really make sure that they're able to dig in, talk to you about the culture. I think the other piece to that is it comes down to interview prep. A great recruiter is going to understand that client, know their interview style, the cadence of types of questions they ask, and really can provide additional value to those that are interviewing to make sure that they're set up for success as most as possible, kind of walking into that conversation. So I think finding a great recruiting partner or partners that are familiar with their clients, they're knowledgeable, they're able to speak to their experience working with them, and can really relay that knowledge to you to set you up for success, especially as you're going through an interview process. And really make sure that they're not setting you up for a scenario where ultimately it wouldn't be a good fit for one reason or another.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The other piece of advice I want to offer, which is a little off topic, but I think it's important, if a recruiter calls you about an opportunity and you're a little bit on the fence or you're just not sure, it's okay to explore the opportunity and go interview with the client and determine if it's the right fit for you as a candidate, right? It's okay to say no as well. And I know, Angela, you talked about that, candidates say no. We just want to understand why you're saying no so that we can hone in and help you find that right opportunity. But my piece of advice is that sometimes you can be pleasantly surprised. And so it's going and having that dialogue and listening and truly determining if it's the right fit. Because if it's not the right fit, it's okay to say no. And the recruiter will want you to say no because they don't want to put you in a spot where you are unhappy or feeling like you will take the opportunity but then want to leave in a week because it's not the right long-term fit. So I think just having transparency there, and it's much of an interview process for the candidate as well as the customer, right, to determine that it's the right fit. So I would offer that as a piece of advice and not be afraid to, just be honest with the recruiter that, hey, I'm not 100% sure this is the right opportunity, but I would love to have a dialogue with the hiring manager to determine if we should move forward and if this is the right long-term fit for me. So.
Absolutely, Alex. I would say that's definitely true, and maybe even especially true for newer graduates. Those that graduate with a degree like myself, communications, it's a great degree, but doesn't give you that, that perfect path to what your next step looks like. And so sometimes you don't necessarily know what that path looks like until you start having conversations. And while, I can talk through my client all day long, I think sometimes the hiring leader, whoever's hiring for that position, has a unique perspective on their expectations, what they're looking for. And to your point, you could be very pleasantly surprised. That happens all the time especially with new graduates who aren't 100% sure what they want to do. Sometimes having those conversations, it can also help guide you to, I know for sure that's not what I want to do. And sometimes you don't know until you have those conversations. So I would say, especially for new graduates, being open just to kind of hear what's out there, have some great interview practice, but also be able to meet and understand different industries that are out there, I think can bring a lot of value.
Yeah. And I think there are times that a recruiting firm may be the only entry point to get into that opportunity. It might not be a position that's posted on that customer's website. Certainly there are times that they're doing both, right? They're doing their HR search and they're partnering with firms to find candidates. So certainly there's times that they can work that way, but I have seen opportunities, the only way to get into that opportunity is to partner with a recruiter. So I think also expanding your network to make sure you're partnering with the right people that can get you to the opportunities that you're not potentially seeing on your own. That could be another benefit of why would you want to partner with a recruiter. All right. I think we're going to move on to the question and answer session. So I know you guys have been submitting questions here, and if you want to continue to put questions in the Q&A box on the right-hand side, I'm going to take a look at these. So bear with me as I'm reading through them to make sure I'm getting the right one. And if we don't get through all of these, we certainly can follow up in the very end as well. So let's see where we're at. Okay, so one question I'm seeing is, how do I connect with the right recruiter? Do I have to wait for them to reach out to me? So Angela, I'll let you take that. Again, how do I connect with the right recruiter, and do I have to wait for them to reach out to me?
Yeah, I definitely don't think you have to wait to reach out. I would take a look at your local market. Shameless, Kforce plug is, check out our website. But I would say, in your local area, I can almost guarantee to you that you have dozens of recruiting firms in your local area. So, give it a good Google. I think LinkedIn can also be a great resource. Sending messages, introducing yourself to recruiters, sharing that, you're a recent graduate or you're a seasoned accountant looking to make a change. I love getting messages like that. I'm passionate about referrals. So a lot of the candidates that I partner with, I have a great referral network going, but a lot of that is because they had a good experience and they passed that word along. So I feel like people come across Kforce that way. But I love when candidates share they saw me on LinkedIn or they ran across Kforce and they found my name on LinkedIn and they'd love to have a conversation. I would highly encourage you. I would say no recruiter is going to walk away from someone reaching out on their own. And if for some reason, I'll give you a great example. If someone reaches out to me and maybe their particular experience isn't in my direct wheelhouse, I'm big on pushing them towards an arena that can best suit them. So I'll give an example of marketing. For me personally, that's not a core recruiting skill set of mine, but there's some great firms in St. Louis that specialize in that. So I'm not afraid to refer someone on if I can't be the best resource. Certainly don't want to waste their time. So I would venture to share, most recruiters probably feel that same way about it, that they'd love to connect, help if they can. And if for some reason there's a mismatch there, make sure they get you put on the right path. So I would highly encourage you to reach out to anyone in your network or through your local city, taking a look at, firms that are in your area. I have no doubt you would get some great connections from that.
Yep, I would agree. Thank you. All right, so the next question is, do recruiters place for full-time jobs as well as only short-term projects? So I will take that one. They do. So I think that firms can fill positions that could be short-term projects. It could be a couple of weeks or a couple of months or a year or 2 years. So the length of a contract project can really vary depending upon what the customer ultimately is looking to get accomplished. And as a candidate, you get to decide what length is appropriate for you. So maybe you want to be open to contract positions, but you want them to be at least 3 months or at least 6 months or whatever you determine is appropriate for your current situation. So you can decide that and you can partner with a recruiter and tell them that. And then I think there's also definitely full-time positions. So there's recruiters that work and fill positions solely on a permanent basis for customers and clients in a wide variety of industries. So as a candidate, you get to decide what you want, if you want to look for full-time jobs or if you want to look for part-time or if you want to do contract work in the interim until you find that right full-time job, like that's an option as well. So you get to determine what is the right fit. My piece of advice on this one is that just be open to different opportunities, because I certainly have worked with candidates that maybe were ideally looking for the right permanent fit, but maybe a contract to hire position came through. It gave them the candidate a chance to try the opportunity out, make sure that the leadership, make sure the culture was right, and determine that it was the right long-term fit for them. So sometimes it can be a great way to get your foot in the door and evaluate the opportunity without committing to that opportunity for X amount of time in the future. So so that's usually how it works. Another question would be, after applying for a posted job by the recruiter, he contacted me. I now have others from all over the country reaching out. So is that common? Is it common for lots of recruiters to reach out? And Angela, I'll let you take that one.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think the quick answer to that is yes, it's very common. I think especially in the environment we're in right now with the pandemic, more organizations are open to remote talent than I think have ever been. And so even myself, I'm based here in St. Louis, mostly recruit in the St. Louis market, but even my own personal book of business has expanded tremendously across the nation and partnering with talent all across the country. So I will say, I feel like if candidates were looking a year ago and then they're looking now, they may notice an influx of recruiters reaching out from across the country. Going back to, I think, some of the key things we shared today about relationships is, I think, again, having that 20, 30-minute conversation. If someone reaches out regarding a specific opportunity and you think it sparks interest, have the conversation, see if it's potentially a good fit. You can kind of gauge your conversation with that recruiter to understand if they are going to be a good partner for you. And if you get the vibe that it's, it's a personality mismatch, or you feel like it's not going to be a good fit for you, you're under no obligation to continue down that path of conversation. You thank them for their time and move on to another recruiter that could be a better fit for you.
No, I love that. That's great. Another question that came through was just recapping how to connect with the right recruiter. And so My advice for this one is, depending upon where you live in the United States, is to do some Googling or use LinkedIn to do some searches for recruiters based upon what industry and what types of work that you're looking for, to find the right recruiter. So even if there's, again, K4 specializes in finance and accounting and technology, but if there's opportunities outside of that, if I meet someone that's looking for work and it's outside the domain that I place, right, I'm either trying to help them do a search to find somebody else, or maybe I have somebody in my network. So, but that would be my piece of advice, to be able to connect. And then I know, Angela, you referenced earlier in the conversation too that you can make your LinkedIn profile and you can mark it where it shows that you're open to opportunities. And so certainly as recruiters are doing searches for candidates, that can be a great way for someone to find you, right, and have a recruiter reach out to you, as well as having your resume posted on different job boards. I think that's another way for a recruiter ultimately to find you and potentially connect with you. So I would say you need to search on your own, and also make sure that your network knows you're looking for work and that your information is updated out on LinkedIn and resumes posted. So
another avenue, Alex, that we haven't mentioned that I remember doing when I relocated to St. Louis years ago when I joined K-Force is if there's a particular company you're excited about, so let's say you're looking to partner with a specific organization, not being afraid to look at the recruiters for those organizations and introduce yourself. LinkedIn can be a great resource to provide introductions that may have not otherwise been there. Certainly recruiters have great partnerships to kind of kickstart that conversation, but as we've shared, we work with lots of companies, but not every company. And so if there's a specific organization you're really trying to get your foot in the door with, LinkedIn can be an awesome tool to introduce yourself. So I think LinkedIn, of all the tools we've kind of referenced today, is a great vessel for both recruiters to partner with you, but for you to reach out and kind of kickstart that conversation on your own as well.
Perfect. Okay, so the next question was, if you've applied to a position at a company prior to working with K-Force, does that hurt your chance of working with a recruiter because I've already contacted these companies on your own? And so my piece of advice on that one is that if you've applied to XYZ company, we'll make a company up, and you partner with a firm or a recruiter to ultimately help you, more than likely that recruiting firm is not going to be able to help you within that particular company because you've applied already on your own, and that firm is, that company XYZ is not going to pay a fee to a staffing firm to hire you because you've established kind of that relationship. So certainly feel free to apply to what you're excited about. If you have a recruiter partner and you see a job that's posted, my recommendation is to reach out to the recruiter and say, hey, do you know anybody at XYZ? Can you help me? Are you working this position? Do you know anybody that, you could get my resume further along than just applying directly to that job posting? And the right recruiter will tell you, hey, I can help you. I know someone, or I don't. And the best recommendation for you is to apply to that position, because I don't want to hinder your chances on getting that opportunity. So that would be my recommendation of how you kind of navigate that. But it certainly is it can be a challenge. And I think just keeping track of where you've applied, if there's a particular company that you're interested, so you can communicate to the recruiters that you're partnering with, so they know where you're at in your job search, what you've done thus far in your job search. It can kind of help them understand how they can help you and where they can go to help you. So the second piece was that, will K-Force only work with companies that I haven't applied to? And so it is more looking at, like, when you've applied to that company, how long ago was it? Was it yesterday, or was it a year ago or 2 years ago? So I think it kind of depends upon the timeline of when you apply to that company. But certainly, the companies will say, hey, K-Force, we're not going to obviously work with you on the candidate because they applied directly in our own, so our own internal company, or recruiters are going to reach out to that person. So that's my piece of advice there. Bear with me as I'm looking through more questions. So the question we have is, will upgrading my LinkedIn Premium make my profile more visible to recruiters? Angela, do you know about this one?
I don't.
Yeah,
my assumption would be yes, but in terms of to what degree, that I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll take that one back and we'll do some digging on that one and communicate that back to you. I apologize, we don't have the answer on that one, but we'll find out. We'll let you know. Perfect. Okay, I think that pretty much summarizes all of our questions. We greatly appreciate everyone's time today, and thank you for the dialogue and the questions. Hopefully you found the content beneficial. Should you need anything, please let us know. We definitely would love your feedback, so the survey will be sent out. We'll also send out the video of this presentation from today. And then lastly, we are going to have our next knowledge talk, and that is going to be June 9th. And the topic is specifically talking about kind of the hidden cost of hiring somebody and making a bad hire, and the steps that companies can take to kind of minimize that costly attrition. So that will be on June 9th. We would love for you guys to join us. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you, Sam and Angela. We appreciate your time as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.